Quad 66, talking about propellers. Propellers for me has become this just exhausting thing to dive into, and the reason for that is twofold. One, I guess threefold. So one of the issues is I've got a bunch of different setups. I've got an 1102 setup, 9000 kV that I fly on 2S. Yeah, camera's missing. Normally I have a camera up there. A similar kind of thing, but for 1S with 13,500 kV. And then I've got my 110 style build with those 1102s. And then also flying on what I also like, these 0803s with 16,000 kV. I've also flown on 1103, 11,000 kV, which are the Beta FPV and full speed motors, which I think are also the old original Racer Stars. I've also tried the Pryrodrone Kabab motors with the 1103 and the 12,600 kV. And so a lot of different combinations, and then of just quads to try it on, and then also a lot of different combinations of props. So, or I shouldn't say combinations of props, but just props. So I've tried the Pryrodrone Kabab props, and I've tried these both with 1mm and 1.5mm. These are the Whocares, which I think are a clone basically of the King Kongs. I think they're basically a similar thing. And I've tried these in 1.5mm. I've tried the Gemfans in both 1.5mm and 1mm. The old school King Kongs, which I guess are a clone of the Parrot Rolling Spiders, which are probably the same-ish, and these are chewed up, that's why they look different, but are probably very similar to these Whocares. I've also tried these very new school for this type of prop, the HQ props that have all these nice shaping to them and stuff like that. And these are only in the 1.5mm. And I've even tried these total waste of money garbage props. These are the Happymodel sailflies. And so there's so many combinations, so many different things. And there's sort of this mystery out there, or at least kind of perceived mystery, I think, that one of the things, so this kind of comment from Kabab when he said that, with these little drones, that there's no consistency in terms of the combinations. Like, so you fly, one prop on one motor, and then you change out the prop, and it's terrible. But then you take this prop and you put it on a different setup, and suddenly it's fantastic. And I think it's not actually the combination of motor and prop. I think what's actually happening, why these combinations seem either fantastic or terrible or something in between, is actually the inconsistency in the props themselves. So what I mean by that is that I think what's actually happening is that there's so much inconsistency that if you get a good batch and you throw them on the quad, you might have a fantastic experience, and then if you get a bad patch and you throw them on to try a different setup, and you're going to have a bad experience, and you're going to think that the prop and the motor didn't work well together, but in reality it was just a bad set of props and a good set of props. And to illustrate that, so I just went through this process with this little guy here. So this is the 0803 motors, and I just bought all new motors. These are all brand new motors. And so the first prop I flew it on is I got some of the Pryrodrones in 1mm, so I was excited to try those. Threw them on there, and then I flew this around, and it was terrible. The motors were rattling badly, the performance was down, and I was like, what the heck, did I just waste a bunch of money on the 0803s? And these are kind of like the least lowest quality sort of motors. They got one bushing, one bearing, and so they kind of get beat up and sloppy, and I was like, did I just get a bum batch? So I'm like, all right, well, that was kind of disappointing. But then I got excited again because I got a set of the Gemfans in 1mm. I was like, well, let me just try those, just to get a sense of the performance. So I popped those all off and threw the Gemfans on there, and similar thing, put it on there, and a lot of rattling, poor performance, and I was thinking, oh, what the heck. Well, let me deal with trying to find the bad motor, pulling it out. And so I took it on the beta flight, spun up the motors one by one, and what I found was I had two motors that were really rattling, vibrating bad, rattling badly, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll probably need to change out those motors, but before I do that, let me pull the prop off and try different props. So I had the 4 Gemfans on there, And these are these, by the way. It's a little 1mm hole. So I had 4 of those. I pulled off the two that were the offending motors, and then tried some different props out of the Gemfan bag, and got one to improve, the other one didn't improve, and I tried like 3 or 4 props, and I said, okay, forget it, these props are just kind of inconsistent. Pulled all those off, and I said, well, let me see what happens if I go back to my original props that I'm used to. Threw on the King Kong props, and then suddenly everything quieted down. Even the motors that seemed smooth were smoother. Performance came right back, and the quad flies fantastic. So that was pretty disappointing because, you know, Gemfan is supposed to be like, right, a decent prop company, and to get, you know, probably if you do the math, probably like 3 out of 6 of these propellers with vibrations to where they destroy the performance of the quad. That's pretty disappointing. And now, in fairness, these motors are very intolerant of vibrations. They just don't stand up to it well, and so, you know, you just got to kind of keep that in mind. But that was a little disappointing. And I've had similar experiences on this one. So with this 1102 build, threw these on here with the Pryrodrones and this 1.5mm shaft. And I had to change out a couple of these. So the same thing, go on beta flight, spin up the motor one by one with the props on, find the ones that have the vibrations, change some of them out. I found a good set. Now this thing flies great. And similar experience on this one. I forget what I had on here. I had something on here, wasn't doing too well. Pulled these off, and then actually threw on the Whocares, which are the 1.5mm, and suddenly I was flying great. But, you know, we were flying them for a while, chewed those up pretty bad, and so it's time to replace them. I didn't have another full set of the Whocares props, so I went back to the King Kongs, but now drilled them out with the 1.5 or 1.49, actually 1.48mm shaft drill bit to get them onto the 1.5mm shaft, and now I've got bad vibrations, and the quad flies terribly. So it just kind of seems like it's not really like so much the prop and motor. It's, did you get a good set of props, and that seems to be making all the difference. So to summarize it, and this is my experience, this is limited, I'm not trying thousands of these, but I mean, I've tried, you know, a decent number. I'm not talking about just one-offs here, but I've tried a few, and so this is what I have found. This is my summary of what's working, what's not working. So to jump to the quick answer, the best experience I'm having is on the 1mm using the old school King Kongs, and I like these because you can get them in red, but these don't, like, I'm drilling them out, I'm not getting consistent results with drilling them out. So for drilling them out, you can get basically the same prop on these Whocares in 1.5mm, and that's the most consistent experience I'm getting, whether it's on 1S 0803s, 2S 1102s, or 1S 1102. That's the best experience I'm getting out of them, which is kind of ironic because these seem like really cheap props. And the downsides of these, though, so some reasons why you might not want to go with these. With the Whocares, you can only get them in black. So if you're stuck somewhere and lost, you don't get the nice bright prop that's easy to see. And then the other thing is they get chewed up. So you can see this where that blade just does not look like it should. So the edges are so thin that whenever you hit the ground or things like that, they really get chewed up fast. The good parts about them, though, is that although they bend, you can kind of bend them back. They don't tend to snap at the hub, and they are inexpensive, which is kind of nice. They do seem just so low quality. Like, for example, just look how droopy that looks. It looks terrible, yet it flies fine. So I don't know. It doesn't entirely make sense to me, but they work. My next probably favorite in terms of, I don't know if favorite's the right word, but where am I getting consistency? Next most consistent is with the HQ props. There's some other props in this bag, ignore those, but so these guys, the HQ props, next most consistent are these. Performance-wise, on 1S and lightweight 2S, they don't really seem to do anything special though, in terms of they don't really do anything better. They sound a little bit different. The thing they do better is probably that they're more durable when they hit the ground and stuff. They don't get chewed up as fast. I haven't really bent them. And the other thing I do like about them is that you can see how short that hub is. If you drill all the way through, so you take that 1.48 millimeter drill bit, you drill them through. When you mount them up, they sit super low. But they are pricier than what you get the King Kongs. And overall, I've still had, or the King Kongs or the Whocares, but overall I've had better, smoother flights on the Whocares and the King Kongs than the HQs. And then the Pryrodrones, I was kind of excited about these initially, but they've just been inconsistent in terms of getting nice smooth flights out of them. And so I'd kind of put these third. The nice part about them is the durability. When these don't get chewed up as much when you hit the ground, but where they do bend, they tend to bend like kind of here at the hub. And you can bend them back once or twice, but then they tend to like break off. So the thing I don't like about them in terms of the design is, see how tall that hub is? So with the hub being that tall, they sit up higher. And with the way I'm mounting batteries on the bottom, my weight's kind of low. And so this raises the propeller up away from the center of gravity. I'd rather have it with a shorter hub so it sits down closer to the center of gravity. Below that, I think I'd put the Gemfans, which is kind of unfortunate because I like that they come in this high vis that's easy to see. And also these feel like they have pretty good durability. Even though they're very thin, they seem like they have good durability. And they also have an interesting property that I haven't seen out of the others, is that when you really push them, when you're going hard and cornering, these tend to start to grip better. They kind of come alive a little bit, and maybe I need to try them on 2S still, but they might have some nice characteristics when they're spinning faster. But I don't know if I'm willing to really deal with the frustration of how many of these have been not smooth and causing vibrations that it's worth if there is some performance. And I'm not sure if there's a performance benefit. I haven't flown it up to be able to tell because I've just gotten frustrated with them. And then last, these Happymodel, these are the sailfly props. I've only tried one set of these, but I totally abandoned them because I tried one set and literally they made the quad unflyable. I was doing a commission build, and on this type of setup, and it literally made the quad unflyable. I shouldn't say unflyable, but it was just so awful that I pulled them off and didn't even bother trying anymore. So those were the Happymodel sailfly props. Okay. Props. Quads. I don't know. So I think the OGs are still the way to go for now, anyways. Until next time, cheers.